Good morning, ladies of the Goddess Ascension group. How are we all doing on this lovely sunny morning? I hope you're all well. I'm coming on this morning to share with you. Please do say hello as you come on. Even if you're just popping in for a few minutes, it's just really nice to know who's here and to welcome you and to include you in my heart as I'm sharing these words that want to be spoken through me this morning. I feel emotional to drop this share with you this morning. There's a lot that wants to come through today, and I will do my best to do it in a way that is coherent. I want to share with you about mental health. There is a lot of, maybe even stigma around the word mental health, right? Like we've tried to normalize it. We've tried to really make it part of the language that we use in society to, allow space for mental health struggles to be part of the conversation. But somehow it can feel a bit like a label, I think, right? Like, oh, she's got mental health problems. Do you know what I mean? Like, no one wants to be thought of as like that person that's got mental health problems. But the reality is, I think we all do, right? We all do, because if you break it down, mental just means of the mind, and health just means how healthy is the mind on any particular day, week, month, or year. That can change moment to moment, right? That's not a static problem, and it's not a static situation. It's a spectrum. Morning, Suzanne. Morning, Victoria. So the way I see it, mental health is a continuum, right? Like we have optimum mental health, and we have people who are really, really struggling with their mental health. And most of us are fluctuating along that continuum all the time. So I feel like for me, one of the most powerful things to do to destigmatize mental health is to step into the arena collectively and put our hands up collectively and say, I am on that spectrum. If you're listening to me now, or if you're listening later, just drop a comment and say yes if you resonate, that you also feel like to some extent you are on that spectrum. For me, that makes it a much less binary situation. It's no longer, do you have mental health problems or do you not have mental health problems? It's like we all experience challenges within our mental health. And where am I today? Where am I this week? Where am I at the moment with that fluid, fluctuating reality that we're all living with? So I want to share with you this morning that as a coach, what I find within the industry, and something which I struggle to know, or have struggled to know where I sit along that line, is that there's an unspoken rule within the coaching world that, as one coach expressed it to me once, she said, Laura, you don't want to share from the wound, you want to share from the scar, right? Meaning, you only want to share with people the aspects of humaning that you have overcome, or the aspects of humaning that you have mastered, or the challenges that you faced in your life 5 years ago, 10 years ago, which you've now overcome, and now you can help other people to overcome those issues. Does that make sense? So the whole coaching industry is really based around that premise that you teach people the things that you've healed. You don't teach people the things, or you don't lead people through the things that you are also still leading yourself through. And somehow that ethos has never sat right with me. It hasn't. I knew that wasn't the way that I'm called to do this. And it's vulnerable. It's really vulnerable. Morning, Nina. It's really vulnerable to lead from the wounds. It's really vulnerable to lead from, these are the areas where I'm still struggling, and this is how I am walking myself through. I am not seeing that modeled to me in this industry by my peers. I am seeing them left and right. My entire feed is filled with coaches because I'm in a big coaching container where lots of people want to friend request you, right? So now the irony is I barely see what my own actual friends in real life are doing because my entire feed is filled with what all these coaches are talking about, sometimes to the point where I feel a bit nauseous and I don't think I can read any more of these posts. And what I see time and time again is coaches leading from what they now have consolidated, right? Like, I used to be, impoverished, and now I'm a millionaire. And if you follow me, this is how you do it. Or I used to not know how to be in a conscious relationship, and now look at me. My husband gives me multiple orgasms 25 times a day and I'm high on life. And if you follow me, then this is how, you can be too. Like, it's very... there's a gap. That style of coaching creates a gap. And I'm not saying it doesn't work or it's not effective. In many ways it does, because of course, if you want to work on your money mindset and you see a coach that's doing extremely well financially, the chances are you're going to gravitate to that person and think, well, maybe she can teach me a thing or two. And no doubt she can. No doubt she can. Same applies for if you want to work on relationships or sexuality. There's a coach for everything. It's one of the biggest booming, growing industries on the planet. It's set to be like, I think by 2025, my coach Melanie was saying the other day, it's set to be something like a $25 billion industry. It's huge, especially for women, because there are so many women wanting to up level now, wanting to heal, wanting to grow, wanting to make radical changes in their life. And it's an incredible thing. It's an incredible thing to see this industry booming in the way it is. But this sticking point for me has been niggling me for a long time of, how do I show up consistently for the women in my world, for the women in my group, for the women in my programs? How do I show up for them consistently if I can only go on camera or I can only do a Facebook post when I'm high on life? When I only share from what I've healed 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 2 years ago. If I only share what I mastered in the past, then I'm always leading with a gap, with a safe gap. And there's a reason why the coaching industry has developed in that way, because obviously it feels a lot safer and a lot less vulnerable to lead from what you know and what you've mastered and what you've healed than to also lead from that which you are currently healing, that which you are currently experiencing, that which you are currently struggling with. That takes next level power, next level courage, next level vulnerability. And that is the energy that I want to lead from. And as usual, it seems to be the story of my life that I see another way. I see a different way. I see a way that I think is a better way that we can do things. And I look around me and it's not being mirrored. And then there's always a dilemma, isn't there? Like, do I trust myself on this one? Do I trust myself to lead from a place that I'm not seeing other people lead from because it feels right to me? Or do I try and mold myself to this aspect of the industry? And by doing so, my conclusion is that I would be doing the women in my world a huge disservice. Because if I only share the shiny parts of me, if I only share the parts of me that feel, consolidated and ready to go out on the shop floor, having been quality controlled in the back room by me before I expose things, I'm not being my most authentic self. And if I could strip back into one word, my strongest core value in life and my strongest core value in this work, without a shadow of a doubt, it's transparency, authenticity. So I completed 2 days ago my 1 year in the Alpha Femme experience, so the coaching program that I've been doing for the last 12 months with Melanie. And that was a hugely emotional day for me on Wednesday. A lot of tears, a lot of gratitude, a lot of fear of how do I keep doing this without Melanie? Because she holds me. I hold a lot of people. And she's one of the rare people who holds me. And she doesn't even know she's doing it, because she's got hundreds of people in her programs. But somehow, every program she does, every program that I've done with her, she shared with me the exact thing that I needed to hear on that day, in that stage of my evolution, at that stage in my own becoming. Every program, she was like bang on cue with what I needed to hear, that next piece of the puzzle that I needed to move forward with whatever I was wondering about or struggling with or trying to master. And the last program that I did with Melanie was called Protégé. And the first program that I did with Melanie this time last year was called Coach. And it seemed very prophetic to me that I would begin with doing the coach program with her when I was learning how to do this profession. When I was learning from someone who's been in this profession for a decade and who I trust implicitly more than anyone else in this profession, I trust Melanie. So I knew I had to do that coach program with her because I knew that if I was ever going to be molded by anybody, I knew I had the raw materials, but I knew I needed to be molded in some way, led in some way. And I knew that if there was any woman for the job, that was beyond a shadow of a doubt, Melanie. So I signed up for coach. And I got maybe a week in, 2 weeks in. And I said to myself, I have to do every program that this woman has got. I have to do every single one. because I know that what this woman knows is fucking gold. And but by the grace of God, the £11,000 that I needed to do the whole year landed in my lap quite literally 3 days after I decided I was all in. And that's another story for another day. The point is that I started with Coach, where I was learning from Melanie how to be a coach, how to package it, how to present it, how to walk myself through it, how to embody the coach, the teacher, the leader. And the last program that I've just completed with her, called Protégé, was about how to be the student, how to really embody the student. And as usual, she didn't fail me once to say the thing that I knew in my heart was true. And she somehow just spoke it out and validated it for me. And she was talking about this exact thing that I've been struggling with ever since I came into this line of work, is where is the line between undersharing and oversharing as a coach? Where is the line between leading others by what you have learnt and mastered and leading others by what you are still learning and mastering? And as ever, Melanie confirmed to me what I already knew, which is that there is space for both. And that what this industry needs more than ever is more coaches who are willing to say, this is what I'm walking myself through right now, and this is how I'm doing it. And when I heard her say that, I was like, that's her. That's her final message to me. I felt like she was somehow anointing me and saying, you do it your way. Even though there's like 789 people on that call or something ridiculous like that, she was talking to me. And she kept on saying in that last transmission, she kept saying, I want you to try to receive this transmission as if I'm just talking to you personally. See if you can receive it as if I'm in your living room and we're having a conversation. And I felt she was saying to me, Laura, do it your way. That is the way that's got the most power for me. Is this is what is palpable for me right now. And this is how I'm leading myself. And what's palpable for me right now is my own struggle with another period of mental health struggles. And it seems to be like one of the hardest things in the world for us to acknowledge that, to talk about that, to share that from a space that feels empowered. That's fucking hard when you feel in that collapsed energy. And to ask for help. And this dark period that I'm in at the moment has been going on for several months. And it's weird with mental health, isn't it? Because most people, when we're going through a dark period. We're not necessarily in it consistently 24 hours a day, right? Like, you can still go to work and be okay for a few hours and seem normal. You can still have conversations with people where you laugh and they wouldn't know anything was wrong. You can still go on social media and share a day out that you've had with your family or your friends and look super happy, and no one's going to know anything's wrong. I can still go on and share a post that's super powerful and potent and nobody knows anything's wrong. It happens to me a lot, you know, that I'll bump into people that I've not seen for a while and they'll say, "Oh my God, Laura, you're doing so well." And I'll be like, "Am I?" And they'll be like, "Yeah, you're doing amazing." And I'll be like, "How do you know?" And they'll be like, "Well, Facebook, I see your Facebook." As if like, Facebook tells me that you're amazing, you're doing amazing, so you're definitely doing amazing. And we've got to really watch that aspect. Yeah, Nina, thank you. Thank you for sharing that you relate to that one. Yeah, social media is a snapshot of how we are doing in any given moment. And we can curate those snapshots to create what can look like a very vibrant, happy, fulfilling existence. And it's not to say that those shares or those posts when we're in that happy, vibrant, expansive, fun space are not real. They are real. But the problem is they don't tell the full picture. There are so many things going on behind those happy posts for all of us. So it feels really important to me to expose this and to talk about this. The space between the happy posts, the space between the Facebook lives, the space between promoting our businesses online. There is a human behind the legend. And as I say, it's not to say that the shiny, happy, confident side of ourselves isn't real too. She is also real. It's just that she doesn't tell the full story. And sometimes it can feel really lonely when people only see and identify with that side that they see on social media and draw a conclusion about how well you're doing or how well I'm doing, which may not actually be the case. So, 3 nights ago, when I was really feeling in a dark, dark space mentally, I felt myself slipping. You know that feeling? If any of you also have experienced that feeling of depression, it's like a sort of cyclone, right? It's like a dark cyclone that sort of builds momentum and sucks you in. And for me, when that starts to happen, I can feel less and less connected with people, less and less part of society, part of, you know, I feel like I can, when I'm in that kind of space, I feel like I float around a bit like a ghost, going in and out of the college or in and out of the shops or in and out of spaces, but not really feeling there. Let me know if you relate to that feeling. And so 3 nights ago, when I was feeling myself really, really slipping into this darker space in my head, I realized I needed to do something. I realized that I needed to ask for help. And it is so fucking difficult to ask for help when you feel like that. It's so difficult for me to ask for help when I feel like that. Because, we've been conditioned to see asking for help as weakness. So there's a vulnerability in that. And when we're in a low space, we're already feeling vulnerable, right? We're already feeling raw. We're already feeling like a fuck up. We're already feeling like a burden. Heavy. So then that gets layered up with not wanting to burden anyone else, not wanting to bother anyone, not wanting to have to face the humiliation of other people realizing that we're not okay. So there are so many internal things to overcome before we reach the point where we can actually have the courage to ask for that help. So then how do we ask for help? How do we let people know? And my observation is that as humans, we tend to go in one of two directions when we need that help. We either retract from people and try to manage it on our own, which is what I do. My tendency is to retract. Or we make it one person's job to help us or fix us or heal us, and then we project the savior onto them, and then we get frustrated or angry or resentful if they're not doing that job properly, right? So let me know in the comments if you're catching this later, or Nina, if you're with me now, let me know, like, which way do you swing when you're feeling dark? Do you tend to swing in the direction of, I'm going to hide because I feel so ashamed and I'm going to try and self-soothe? Or do you go in the direction of insisting that your partner or your parent or your closest sibling or your closest friend, do you project onto them that they need to help you and then project that on them very intensely? Yeah, Nina, you're more isolation, so you're more like me. When we swing towards the isolation, inevitably we're going to look for soothing strategies, right? If we're not allowing other people close enough to connect with us, we're going to go for alternative soothing strategies. And more often than not, we're going to go for ones that aren't good for us. They're harmful, right? Alcohol is the obvious one that a lot of us swing towards to self-soothe because it numbs. And when I'm in a dark spot, I will reach for alcohol. Not in large quantities, thank goodness. I always keep it very moderate. But that doesn't detract from the fact that I use it as a self-soothing technique. Some of us go for food. We eat excessively, things that aren't good for us, to numb out. Some of us get really addicted to social media and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, because while we're in a trance on the screen, we don't have to feel what we're feeling. Some of us go to the gym and absolutely pound it in the gym, because if we go into physical punishment or physical exertion, then we have a temporary reprieve from the mental torment, the mental stress, the dark mood. So we have strategies when we go into isolation, but a lot of them don't tend to be particularly healthy. So the way I see it, when we swing towards the isolation end of the spectrum, that represents toxic independence, right? Like, I will deal with this on my own because I don't trust anyone. I don't feel safe enough with anyone else to help me, or I feel too exposed. I feel too much of a fuck up and I don't want people to see that, so I'm just going to hide. So for me, that represents the sort of toxic hyper independence that as women, we've kind of been steered in that direction. You know, to be an independent woman has been heralded as something to aspire to in the modern woman's life, right? Or we go down the codependent route of attaching to one person and making it their job to meet all of our needs. And often we then, when we attach that to one person, we tend to do it in a way that is really demanding energetically, even if we're not trying to be. And they will experience that as really intense, and they will probably feel like no matter what they do, they can't do right for doing wrong. And they will be very like overwhelmed and a bit perplexed as to what they can do to help. So I am always in pursuit of what I call the Tao. I'm always in pursuit of what is the center point between these two extremes, these two polarities of insisting on help and resisting it, avoiding it, demanding it. Like there's got to be a space between, right? And what I realized was the space between, for me anyway, is to alert a group of people that I'm struggling. Why? Because it takes a village. You know that saying, it takes a village to raise a child? It takes a village to do all kinds of things. It takes a village to share responsibility, i.e. the ability to respond. When we put it all on one person, it's very heavy for them. When we share it amongst a group of trusted, beloved friends or family members, everyone can do their little bit. Nobody has to carry it on their own shoulders exclusively. Right? So, in the midst of my despair the other night, when I realized this is reaching a tipping point now where I do need that help, with my hand literally shaking because I was crying so much, I was like, right, I'm going to create a group of people who I trust and who I know love me dearly. And I'm going to tell them that I'm not doing so well. And I'm going to ask for some extra support. So I created a WhatsApp group of about 14 friends. And I said to them, guys, I'm in a bit of a hole at the moment. I am feeling really disconnected. I am feeling really sad. I am feeling really quite depressed. And I need some extra support. And I know that a lot of us are going through mental health challenges at the moment. How could we not be? The world is in a state of fucking chaos. How could we not be going through that, right? We're all going through that. So it was really important in my group message that I sent to acknowledge to people, you may also be going through your own stuff. So I'm asking you to feel into what your capacity is here to support me. But here are some of the ways that I would find it really helpful to be supported. And I actually listed some suggestions for people. I said some text messages every couple of days to check in with me while I get through this period would be really helpful if you have space. I'd really appreciate some phone calls if you have space. For those of you who live locally to me, if you feel able or you feel the desire to walk with me in nature, I would love to receive some invitations to go for a walk. Can you feel how empowered that is? Just type in the comments if you can feel how empowered that is. That even when you feel absolutely wretched inside yourself and ashamed to be asking people for help, to still have the presence of mind to realize that that is what's necessary. To have the emotional intelligence to know when it's time to reach out before you go any deeper into your black hole. To have the discernment to know who to ask. And to have the emotional intelligence to help people to know in what way you would find it helpful to be supported. and to give people a range of options. And also to acknowledge that some people may have limited capacity or no capacity, and that that's also okay. Can you feel the power and the vulnerability in having the courage to do that? It takes pure courage, Nina. Pure courage. Because in the vulnerability of asking for help, you need to also have the emotional bandwidth to hold the range of responses that are going to come back to you, right? Some people will come back to you immediately and say, I'm here. What do you need? I'm here. You want me to come round right now? Like, there'll be people who do that. There'll be people who voice note you straight away. There'll be people who don't voice note you back for a few days, even though they've read the message, right? There'll be people who say to you, I love you so much, and I'm going through some shit myself right now, and I don't have the capacity, but I love you, and you're amazing, and I'm here, right? You'll have people who'll message you back and say, how are you doing? I'm so sorry to hear that. And there'll be a part of you that'll be like, well, why aren't you offering to phone me? Why aren't you offering to come round? The baby goddess, the wounded part, she's quite demanding, the wounded part. So she will be analysing the offers of support that come back and discerning which people have ticked the box of enough support and which people haven't. You know what I mean? So you've got to watch that part of yourself as well. That's like critical of the amount of support or the type of support that comes back. And trust that people are doing as much as they can. And that once you've sent out the request into the quantum field for the support, it will also come to you through people and through situations that you hadn't even thought of. Because although I selected that particular group of 14 people, by creating the group and asking for that support, I'm sending a sonic signal out into the quantum field for that, which goes beyond that group and beyond those 14 people. Does that make sense? It will be heard wider than that. Yesterday, an Italian friend who I fucking adore, who I haven't seen for about 4 years, calls me actually, super excited, saying, darling, I'm coming to London to the Chelsea Flower Show in May. Shall we meet again between the flowers in Chelsea? And, oh, it will be so wonderful to see you. And his boyfriend works at the Chelsea Flower Show. So he was like, I will invite you. We will have a day between the flowers. It will be marvellous. He's very over the top. I was like, wow, the quantum field has heard my call, my sonic call for connection. And it's bringing it to me through people and through invitations and through opportunities that I may not have been able to conceive of with my human mind, because with our human mind, we can only see so far. We can only see so much. Does that make sense? So by asking for the help and the support, we also have to have the emotional resilience to accept with grace whatever people can and can't offer. And to trust that the people who are meant to step forward right now and offer that support will 100% step forward. And the ones who can't, or who don't, or who aren't able to do it as fully as the wounded part might like, it doesn't mean they don't love us. It just means that we're a tag team, and some people, it's their turn to show up. It's their turn to take a little, to do their leg of the race, as it were. And we have to trust that the right people will step up. The people who have the right medicine for us on that day will show up. So if you consider all of the components that it takes to ask for that help, then you can start to see why we find it so fucking hard, right? But I can already feel my cloud lifting a little bit, because I can feel that people have energetically gathered around me tighter, because I've let them know that what they see on Facebook is not the full picture. The shiny, dancy videos, those are amazing, but those are snapshots of me. They are not the entirety. And it is my mission amongst other many missions, to destigmatize the shame around asking for help. Because I truly believe that all of the people that I included in that group, who I asked for help from, vulnerable though that felt, shameful though that felt, several of those people have already said to me, "Wow, Laura, that was an amazing thing that you did to create that group and ask for that help." And I know that they were inspired by that. And it is my deepest wish that if and when any of those people in that group reach that point that I was at, where they feel like they are free falling and there's no one there, no one knows that they're free falling, it is my deepest wish that they will remember me creating that group. And they will remember the courage that it took me to create that group. And maybe they will create their own group one day and ask for that help. And maybe that is how the ripple effect will start to take momentum between women, between people, to say, I need you. We are not hyper independent beings. We're not designed to be like that. We're designed to connect and to see each other and to hold each other and to take turns. Maybe on a day when I'm weak, you're strong. Maybe on a day when I'm strong, you need that help. And that's how we get through these periods, is by taking turns to be space holders and to be held. And so many of us women who are in this work, holistic healing work, we know very well how to hold other people. We can do that all fucking day long. Sometimes I might hold space for 50, 60 people in a week. I know exactly how to do that. But to receive that, to ask for that, that's a whole different challenge. Let me know in the comments if you resonate with that. How much easier it is to support everyone else when they need you, and how excruciatingly challenging it can feel to ask for that help when you need it. This is the work. This is my greatest wish for all of us, is that we learn new ways to alert each other when that help is needed. That we learn how to embody this idea that it takes a village, and to ask multiple people so they can show up for us based on their capacity to show up and not go over their capacity. So it's about taking care of them as well as taking care of ourselves in those moments, and that can be really tricky. That's something to learn. So I hope that something that I've shared this morning has freed you up in some way. Let me know in the comments later how my words have impacted you this morning. My wish is that you feel freer to express what you need, that you develop the emotional bandwidth to ask for it, trusting that the right people will show up, and bowing with grace to those who maybe can't right now, and to trust that it doesn't mean that they don't love you. And to trust that when we ask for that help, it really does give us that lift sometimes that we need just to get out of a tricky spot. And it also shows other people how it's done. For me, for you, for us. Aho. Nina, Leanne, whoever else is here, has been here, or whoever else dipped in and out. Thank you so much for being part of this conversation this morning. It means so much to me to be able to have these conversations with you. I look forward to the next installment. And in the meantime, have a wonderful day. Lots of love.